Today, we're talking about how to forgive ourselves. And there seems to be a tendency to hold ourselves more accountable than we do others. Now, at the end of this session, I will share with you 4 steps on how to forgive yourself. Hi, I'm Dr. B, and I want you to fully enjoy life and experience the freedom that God desires for you and those around you. Now, the ability to forgive ourselves is an important part of moving in the direction God gives us and living in freedom. When I think of forgiving self, I think back to the Apostle Peter, one of Jesus' beloved disciples. Jesus even told him he was a rock. Peter defended Christ, but at one point in his life, he totally denied knowing who Jesus was. Jesus even told him in advance that he would deny even knowing who Jesus was, and Peter couldn't believe it. But it happened exactly as Christ predicted. Christ was taken by soldiers and was being questioned and knowing he would be crucified. Peter was at a short distance watching the interrogation, and a person came to Peter and said, "This guy's been with him. He's one of the followers." Peter said, "No, I'm not." A little later, he was recognized again and said he didn't know Christ. Even a third time, he was challenged, and Peter yelled and said, "I don't know this man." Right then, the Bible says Jesus looked at Peter, and Peter went away broken. Now I wonder how many times Peter had to deal with that before he was able to forgive himself. Think about it. In the most difficult time in Jesus' life, Peter let him down. If Jesus ever needed support from his disciples, it was then. Peter once basically said, "Lord, even if the rest abandon you, you can count on good old Peter, the rock." How ironic that was. Peter could not be counted on when the going got tough. Think about it. Peter had to forgive himself. Now, many of us have been at that place in our lives where we struggle with forgiving ourselves for things we did in the past. For some of us, it happened years and years ago. I've counseled women who've had abortions, and that experience haunted them for years. The remorse goes down deep inside, gnawing at the very marrow of their bones. Even though they've asked God and even others to forgive them, they cannot seem to forgive themselves. Now, I've counseled with people who really struggle forgiving themselves. As chaplain of the police department, I've been called out on terrible tragedies where someone has been killed accidentally. And I remember one where a lady ran through a red light and a 21-year-old guy on a motorcycle hit her, and he died in the back of the ambulance, in fact, while I was holding his hand. A little later, the officer in charge of the accident asked me to speak to the lady that hit the young man, causing his untimely, tragic death. She was sitting on the ground near the intersection where the accident happened. So I went and sat down next to her and introduced myself. I then asked if she wanted to talk about what happened, and she said yes. She explained that she was at fault because she was texting while driving and was looking down when the light turned yellow, then red. She said she didn't even see the motorcycle until after he hit her car and flew over her car. She later ended up in counseling and had a difficult road on forgiving herself. I had another lady that came in for counseling that also was texting while driving and swerved off the road and hit a man whose car was broken down on the highway. He was standing by his car when he was hit and tragically killed. And I worked with her for months, and she finally forgave herself. Now, both who caused deaths while texting had to deal with the legal consequences. Both were able to face the court system after forgiving themselves, but accepting the punishment by the state of Florida. Now, I want you to get this. The ability to forgive yourself is absolutely necessary if you're going to experience peace and freedom in your life. You will not forget the sin of your past. Forgiving yourself is simply letting go of what you are holding against yourself so you can move on with God and your life. Self-forgiveness is not about letting yourself off the hook, nor is it a sign of weakness. It's allowing God to do His work in you and through you. It's letting God do what He does best, and that's show mercy. As we forgive, we are agreeing with God and moving forward, even when dealing with the consequences of our sin. So let me share 4 steps on how to forgive yourself. First, we must acknowledge that we did something wrong. Now, we live in a society that tells us to deny, deny, deny. We do not need to make excuses or try to justify what we did to make it seem more suitable. As you begin to face what you did, that's the first step towards self-forgiveness. 1 John 1:9 says, if we confess our sins, He's faithful and righteous to forgive us of our sins and to cleanse us from all unrighteousness. Second, we must repent and show sorrow. Now, this is a tough step because the feelings of, let's say, shame, remorse, and guilt can help us with any positive behavior changes that need to take place. If we do not deal with these emotions properly and forgive ourselves, it can lead then to depression. Third, mend the hurt you caused and rebuild trust. To move past your guilty feelings, you must take some type of positive direction for what you did. If possible, you need to go to the person that you hurt and ask them to forgive you. Now, if they choose not to forgive you, that's on them. Your part is to sincerely ask them to forgive you. Now, you may be thinking that this part of the process will help the person you hurt, and it does, but you also benefit from asking for forgiveness. And then fourth, focus on restoration. We all at some time in our lives make mistakes, which causes us to feel sorrow. Here's what can happen if we do not follow these steps properly. We can begin to detest ourselves because of what we did. And this can damage our self-image and make it difficult to move forward in life. Now, when we choose to forgive ourselves, it will help us grow spiritually and become a more mature person. Now, to do this, we must take on an honest look at our own lives. We need to ask the tough questions like, why do I act and react the way I do? Or why do I feel so guilty? When you can answer those questions honestly, you have a path to stop the way you conduct yourself in the future. I know I spent years blaming myself over my brother's death and finally had to self-forgive. I was the oldest of 4 children and was an adrenaline junkie, and my 2 brothers seemed to follow my footsteps in doing dangerous things. And as I shared before, I'd built a half-mile racetrack on our farm with a few 4-foot jumps for racing motorcycles, dune buggies, and even 3-wheelers. As my 2 brothers became old enough to ride and race, they joined my adrenaline junkie lifestyle. We made many trips to the emergency room due to crashes and falls. But in 1985, my father had a massive heart attack and died on our farm at the age of 53. The death was especially tough on my youngest brother, John. After our father's death, we were all affected, but most of us held our grief in. John became even more silent and would spend more time racing his 3-wheeler. One day, about a year after our father died, John was racing his 3-wheeler on the track I built with some neighbors when he took a jump at full throttle, hitting almost 70 miles an hour. The 3-wheeler went sideways, and when he landed, John flew perpendicular with the ground and hit a tree at full force. When the other riders got to him, he was not breathing. When the paramedics arrived, they tried their best to revive him to no avail. They brought him to the ER where he was pronounced dead at the young age of 24. I mean, just a year after our father's death, we had to bury another family member. Well, I went into a deep depression, although I didn't show it. I went on with business as usual. I was pastor of a church in mid-Missouri, and even though my brother was killed on a Saturday, I preached the next Sunday as if nothing had happened. Over a period of 11 years, I blamed myself for my brother's death. I was full of self-condemnation and guilt because I built the track and introduced my brothers to a dangerous lifestyle. The 11 years proved to be too much, and I ended up with post-traumatic stress and burnout. And when I was working with a counselor in Colorado, he had me write a letter to my dad and my brother John, helping me face my own guilt and unforgiveness. Now, here's a portion of the letter that is in my book, Real Forgiveness, that I wrote to my brother John. Dear John, this is a difficult letter to write. I wish we could have gotten closer while you were alive. I did enjoy our times we had together, but I do feel responsible for your death, especially since I'm the one who built the racetrack that you lost your life on. Also, I'm the one that introduced you to racing. I'm sad that you never had the opportunity to get married and enjoy a wife and children. I do thank you for how you took care of Mom after Dad died. Also, you did CPR on Dad for 20 minutes trying to keep him alive. Please know that I love you, and I'm looking forward to the times we will share our thoughts together throughout eternity. I must now forgive myself and move forward as God leads me. Love, your brother, Jeff. Now, after that letter was read to the therapist, I was able to let go and forgive myself. Maybe you need to write a letter or write in your journal to forgive others and yourself. My prayers are with you as you move forward in forgiveness and finding freedom. Thank you so much for watching this video. If it was helpful, be sure to hit the thumbs up button. Also, be sure to subscribe and click the bell icon so you will always know when we post new content. Have a wonderful day as you continue finding freedom in your life.